the host of Guild Night, John Cochise Boozin'.
You ever look in your fridge and you realize there's less milk in the fridge than you thought there was? Well, I think that's ISIS. Or like, you ever look outside and your trash cans are blown over and you're like, what? It wasn't even windy last night. It's ISIS. Calling it. My duckies, hello. We are united again. And I'm as excited as you are. And you should be very excited because not everybody gets to be in the presence of the mighty Cochise, but tonight you guys do. And you know, I'm a little lukewarm towards it. I don't know. I mean, when they say, John, will you do the stream? And I say, I don't know. Will I do the stream? And then somehow I end up doing the stream. You know, it just happens. But we're first gonna bang out some announcements tonight. Gonna get some updates going. A little bit of Peesha, a little bit of Deel. You know. Peesha for you, Peesha for me, and then we'll kick it on to the stream. So starting off with Toast Hackers. If you guys don't know what Toast Hackers is, let me give you a little bit of background. Look up Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a public speaking membership organization, not a lot unlike the Undercroft, where our specialty is cybersecurity and technical proficiency and boardroom proficiency. Their proficiency, you know, what they're trying to promulgate and what they're trying to promote are the soft skills of public speaking and the individual capacity to be able to convey information verbally and to be able to do it in a good and appropriate manner. We at the Undercroft, I've been a member of Toastmasters for 4 years at this point, and I contributed a lot to why I'm able to get up in front of crowds or this weird pseudo crowd, ISIS, and able to speak, whether that's good or bad, that's you guys to decide, but I'm able to do it. And so we at the Undercroft, we're in the process of chartering a Toastmasters organization called Toast Hackers. And if you want to get better at public speaking, if you want to be able to convey ideas better, this is literally for everybody who's in the guild to get better at public speaking, whether you need help being able to convey technical information better, or you have a lot of trouble. This is actually a really big stereotype in the cybersecurity industry. Us talking in front of a boardroom and us looking at the C-suite or the non-technical members like they have an extra arm growing out of their forehead, and us getting frustrated that they're not understanding what they're saying, and them getting frustrated at us that we're not able to convey what we're saying properly. So we're trying to prevent that at Toast Hackers. We agreed to do it bi-weekly every month. One session on Wednesday, one session on Tuesday. We were going to start yesterday with a Wednesday session that everybody was really excited for, and then Tropical Storm Ada happened, and 3 lampposts got knocked over, and Tracy lost power. That was about the extent of it. We still canceled it because we love you guys. We care about your safety. But still, we are going to move that Toast Hacker session to 6:30 p.m. next Wednesday. And then Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and see if there's still interest for us to do a Tuesday session this November. If not, we'll roll it over to December. Wanted to touch on, again, the Toast Hackers channel is just hashtag Toast Hackers in Slack. Please go check it out. Please sign up for meetings. Get with me. I'll kind of explain it. It's a lot of fun. You will get your money's worth out of it. I promise you. Really quick, Undercroft streaming pass, $45. Anybody who is in the continental United States and some parts of Iran that we may or may not be able to verify, you pay us $45. We allow you to view Undercroft content, and there's that. Please pass it on. Throw it out there on Slack, or throw it out there on LinkedIn, on Twitter, retweet it. But I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. So as the voice in my head said, you have to live outside Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco County in order to qualify for the Streamers Pass. Otherwise, get your tickets down to the Undercroft. But yeah, do the Streamers Pass. Pass it around, spread the wealth. The Undercroft is out here. We're changing the game. You guys are changing the game with us. And the more games we could change, the more that we can put Game Changer in our LinkedIn bios and be snarky. We have on November 19th coming up, we have our own homegrown, beloved Chris Macho Christ, Run Guns, Artistic, Machowski, and he's doing a talk called Unraveled. He does a talk every year, and it's like one of these mind-blowing, like everybody sardines in a can in the room. We can't do that this year because of COVID, but we'll figure it out. Last year he did a talk on how to counterfeit not how to counterfeit, but the pros and cons of counterfeiting in Adobe Photoshop. And we actually had somebody brought a Fed, which not cool, man. So we have that going on November 19th. Please check it out. Again, Streamers Pass, blast it out there. Chris, is the Unraveled, is that going to be on the Streamers Pass? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So if you want to see what Macho Christ has cooking up in his kitchen, go ahead and blast that Streamers Pass out there. Undercroft Explorers Night. So Tremere, when he's not being unapproachable, Tremere, he put together a Dungeons and Dragons group that meets every Friday in the Undercroft courtyard. I saw it last week. It's awesome. Tremere brings like $2,000 worth of like props and stuff to the Undercroft. Everybody's socially distanced. Everybody's being responsible. Everybody has a blast. Pop into the Undercroft Explorers channel. Check it out. I promise you'll have a lot of fun. And then me, Tremere, Treycraft, Turtle, Rab, and Danny, Badger Dan, not the other Dan. We are going to do a Magic the Gathering group draft on Saturday the 21st. We have spots for 2 more. If more people want to join than 2, we could figure something out. But pop on over to the Magic the Gathering channel. Cardboard Crack. I told myself, like, I swore myself off in 2017. Never going to do this again. Cardboard Crack sucks. Not doing it. And yeah, we're back in. Thank you, Trey, you a-hole, because Trey brought the Cardboard Crack back to the Undercroft. For guild updates, we have 2 new members. We have Jeff Sauntry, who my understanding is he is an actual wizard. I'm hoping that he gets to come down to the Undercroft and do wizard stuff. I'm very excited. And Adam Roth, who goes by Sintrabose. Now, his avatar is a beast with a suit inside of it. And you see that really spoke to, the allegory of Kobe Bryant, where, you have this external beast, and then inside of the beast is really just a suit. So I think Adam and Kobe, they'll be friends. They could do suit stuff together. Guild elections. Again, congratulations to Tremere and Crispy, who really didn't do anything. I'm just kidding. Yeah, congratulations on your effortless Russian victory, gentlemen. Long may you reign until, an actual challenger appears. I love you guys. Red team, Peesha, Deel, and Treycraft. We really scraped the bottom of the barrel with that one, but, we'll survive. And green team, Count Zero, Dr. Goon, and Kobe Beefcake. We're actually receiving a stipend from the state of Florida because apparently these people are on a watch list just for their human toxicity, and we get a stipend from the state of Florida at the Undercroft for containing them. Shout out to Excrucio, our beloved little Nikolai. He has a newborn son on the way, which he really didn't have to do anything to do that. But again, Nikolai, congratulations. Friday night D&D Undercroft Explorers group. Congrats, guys, for holding your first successful meeting last week. The Undercroft for surviving Tropical Storm Ada. Never forget. And Adam, our beloved President Woden, however the hell you pronounce it, he gave a Hacker One talk yesterday, just kind of talking about how he founded the Undercroft, how he got literally, like legitimately a talk of like how he got from A to B as far as like little Adam in elementary school, probably still dipping, all the way up to where he is now, you know, president of, you know, this massive company that we all love. And I gotta say, it motivated me. B, it showed me something about not only, you know, the president of my company that I work for, but, you know, somebody that I call my friend. I learned a lot of stuff about him. And B, I hate starting sentences with "as a veteran," but I can definitely see somebody who is just getting out of the military hearing Adam and hearing his experiences and hearing what he has to say and benefiting from it. So if I'm going to see if we could paste that talk somewhere in the guild chat, you know, spread the love, send it to somebody who's just getting out that might need it. Send it to somebody who maybe got out of the military a couple of years ago and their career is stagnating. You know, just spread the love. Oh, we might. Okay. The voice in my head is telling me we might have a special watch party for that, which I'm excited for. Post your beer that you're drinking tonight. So I'm drinking Cigar City Margarita Goes. I know some of you guys are beer people, so post a beer that you're drinking in the events channel. Let's talk beer tonight. And I wanted to kind of give a quick, whoever just put ICP rocks. Okay, that's John Lewis, you juggalo. Wanted to kind of hint to a little something that me and Chris are working on the side with Peesha and Count Zero as contributors, hopefully, the Stag Evening Club. You won't know what that is until it happens, but I promise you it is just as toxic as I am as a human being. It's going to be hilarious. You all are going to love it. You're going to get the best parts of Coach East without actually not having to be around me. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, so on to tonight's event. You see, a year ago, me, Adam, Chris, and Joy, we were walking around Ybor City talking about how we sure to hope a virus doesn't close down the city at some point in the near future. Who would to know? Where in a gutter, we found a small little bearded animal, and we approached him, and we said, "Hello there, little fellow," and we gave him a Taco Bell Doritos Locos taco, and he came out from the gutter, and I embraced him against my chest, and he said, "Hurr." And I said, "Yes, fellow, it is okay. It is okay." And so we brought him back to the Undercroft and we bathed him. And, you know, he did some time at Abacote. He did some things for the cybersecurity community. And now he's talking to us tonight. Now, what he did previously doesn't matter. It's what he's doing tonight. That's what matters. So if you've seen him before, husband, father, nobody cares. It's what he's doing tonight. That's what matters. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the creature that we found, who we shaved and bathed and loved and nurtured back to life. Peesha Deel. Go, Peesha.
And now, live from the Undercroft studio in historic Ybor City, please welcome 2020 Master in Residence, Sean Peesha Deel Latona, for his talk, Scripts Ahoy!
All right, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for the intro there, Coach East. Always stellar.
It sounded pretty stellar.
What we didn't tell you in that story is that I bit off 3 of his fingers on the way out of the gutter, right?
We don't talk about that because easy. It still hurts.
So thank you all for showing up tonight. I'm pretty excited about tonight. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things. We're going to have a little bit of fun. It's going to be a live demo, so it could be a short one. Who knows? I don't know. So thank you all very much. A couple things that I would just like to say really quick before we get started. One is I am home alone tonight with the kids. So at any time throughout the next hour or so, there's a chance that I'm gonna have to drop off and go save one of them from falling down the stairs or something. That's why the door's open. If you hear some screaming and yelling, it's them. So I may have to check on them. If all is well, then I'll come back. I promise. Just bear with me. Two, I want to congratulate all the newly elected masters and residents. You have a great group of folks. I expect big things out of this group coming into December, into the next year. And anybody that voted for me, I really, really appreciate it. And anybody that didn't vote for me, there's probably some fraud going on there. So we're still going to look into that. I have my lawyer, co-chiefs looking into it, which is probably why we haven't found anything yet. But anyways,
some dead people voted for you.
Yeah. Thank you to all of those folks. I appreciate it. So on that note, I do want to talk a little bit about what my plans are as master in residence for the next couple of months until a year. So for those of you that don't know, I did accept a new offer. I left Abacode about 2 weeks ago. And I have a new entity that I'm working for out of DC. They're called IOMAXIS. I am still a penetration tester, red team operator, but they are based out of the Washington, DC area. So there's a strong possibility that I'm actually going to have to leave Tampa before my reign as master in residence is over. But before that happens, I have a lot of things that I want to put in place. Hopefully, a good portion of them are going to continue to stay in place after I leave this area. So the first one that I want to throw out there is I'm probably going to try to work on some sort of a newsletter. I know that the Undercroft team, the higher ups, are working on a lot of stuff. Some of it directly involves the membership. Some of it involves outside entities. And I think that some of that information ought to be relayed to the membership so that you all can participate where appropriate. So I want to put that together, either in a monthly form, a quarterly form, some sort of an online newsletter. I know we have these intros before every talk, but I think it should go a little further than that. Big shout out to Sushi for that idea, man. That was all him. I'm working on something with Michael Turtle Dorsey about doing a bug bounty intro workshop. That's how I cut my teeth, was doing bug bounties. They're really fun. They're live networks. There's a chance to make some money. And it's a good way for you to test your skills and to hone your skills as a penetration tester if that's the route you want to go down. So I want to build that up, right? That's something you can put on your resume. I also plan to try to open up some more, maybe, kind of internship or resume padding opportunities for all of those members that are trying to make the shift into cybersecurity. It's a tough gig, man, right? The walls are high. They're not unscalable, but they're high. And you need to put stuff on your resume. So that's what I'm trying to work on over the course of the next few months, is putting opportunities in front of the membership that you can actually work on some stuff, get some experience, and add it to your resume, right? Bug bounties is number one. Some 1099 stuff, some internship stuff. I want to put that stuff together as well. I do plan to try to bring some recruiters into the Undercroft, right? There's a big giant talent pool down there that I think is being overlooked and overshadowed. A lot of you folks have some good soft skills that you brought into cybersecurity with you. Those should not go to waste. So the broader you expand your network, the more hands you can shake, the more people you can meet, the better off you're going to be when you try to break into the field. And I want them to understand that too, right? Those recruiters need to understand that there is a place to look for good talent, and I want to make sure that that's there. What that looks like, I don't know. I have to meet with the higher ups at the Undercroft, see what we can put in place, but I want to at least bring some folks like that in. And then I plan to, I would like to work with, folks like Ryan, folks like Turtle, and start working on some certification prep courses, right? They're not going to be official, and that's fine. And I know that there's a ton of discussion, right? You can set the world on fire just by going into any cybersecurity chat and asking them, what certification should I get? Or telling them, hey, I'm studying for my CEH. Is it worth it? The whole place will blow up because everybody has an opinion about it. Here's my experience, okay? My experience is when you don't have experience, you have to show that you know something, right? So I started out with no experience, but a couple of letters behind my name, okay? those letters got me in the door. That's how I started to talk about interviews. I got turned down from a couple of gigs. I didn't know enough, but that was what started teaching me what I need to learn. Use the certification as a vehicle to educate yourself, right? The letters at the end are going to be great. Some people are going to value them, some won't. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you to have them, okay? So when I talk about prep courses, some of the ones that I'm going to go after are going to be the affordable ones, right? So, because that's what I'm thinking is you have to be able to pay for them to take the test to get the cert, blah, blah, blah. So again, what that looks like, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to go down that route. And then that's it.
There's a question from the guild.
There's a question. Go ahead. Yes, question.
So you moving to Washington, D.C., is that really just code for you finally agreeing to go to Venezuela for Paul?
I can neither confirm nor deny any of these allegations. I will refer you to my publicist, please. Anything else really quick, John, that I should touch on before I dive into the talk?
I'd rather you not touch anything in regards to me, but since we're here anyways, no, man, you did a great job. Honestly, I'll say anybody who did vote for you, I think it was due to the overwhelming amount of effort that you put into you running as a candidate. And, you know, you were completely transparent and you really put your platform out there as far as why we should elect you, other than, you know, just the beard and the fact that you're non-intimidating.
Yeah, right. You know, my platform is pretty straightforward. Vote for me or you're wrong. I'm going to tell you, right? To support our master of ceremonies, right, here's my beer, the pumpkin beer. Be advised, if you see this down at the Undercroft, it's mine. Don't drink it.
Drink it.
Okay, so moving right along, just really quick, just a reminder, folks, this is going to be a live demo. So if something falls off the rails, it falls off the rails. We're going to move right past it. I'm trying my best to monitor the Slack and the YouTube chats. There's a big, long delay. There's like a 20-second delay between myself talking and you guys seeing. So if there's a question, ask it. If I have to go back, I'll go back. We're going to get technical, so if you miss something, please ask. Okay, so Scripts Ahoy, right? Awesome poster, Chris. You always do a fantastic job, and I love it. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this, so take a look, everybody. Who am I, right? I gave myself a little bit of an intro. Coach East gave me a better one. My name is Sean. I'm a pen tester, red teamer for IOMAXIS, master in residence, and I put two of the certifications that I have, right? The EWPT is the eLearn Security Web Application Pen Tester, and the GWAPT, of course, is the GAC Web Application Penetration Testing and Ethical Hacking Certification. And I think it's important to put those up there because when you ask me where did I learn the stuff that I'm going to show you today, a good portion of it came from taking these courses, okay? So that's why I'm kind of an advocate for this path, right? It puts a little bit of structure in your learning. So one warning. I'll give it to you now. Everything we discuss from here on out is for educational purposes only. Do not attempt any of these techniques on systems that you don't have permission to test, okay? If you are unsure of whether you have permission or not, please ask me and I will clarify for you, okay? But yeah, serious, we're gonna talk about some, you know, some harvesting credentials. We're gonna talk about, you know, some access to systems, unauthorized access. So please, please, please don't do this unless you have permission to do it. Scripts Ahoy. Okay, so what is cross-site scripting? Okay, cross-site scripting attacks are a type of injection in which malicious scripts are injected into otherwise benign and trusted websites. Okay, every web page, every website has a series of code that it runs automatically all the time. Cross-site scripting is when you are able to get some unauthorized code in there. It can be HTML, it could be CSS, it can be JavaScript, a whole bunch of different ways that can happen. Portswinger calls it a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to compromise the interactions that user have with a vulnerable application, okay? Works by manipulating a website so that it returns malicious JavaScript to users. When that code executes inside the browser, the attacker can compromise interactions with the application. So hopefully that's kind of straightforward, right? Again, so this is what, kind of the behind the scenes. If you look at a web page and you just look for the source code, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff like this. This right here that we're looking at is HTML, right? There's CSS, cascading style sheets that could be in there. There's DOM that runs in there, document object models. There's JavaScript, all kinds of stuff that can be hidden, in the source code of a website. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to put some code into that website that's going to execute, okay? When you bring up a page, that web page automatically runs that code. If I'm able to throw some code in there, that code is going to get executed and all will be well for me as an attacker. All right. Cross-site scripting types, there's several of them. Reflected cross-site scripting is when input that you put in to a website is shown directly back at you. I'll show you some examples of this when we get into it. Persistent or stored is when the input that you put into the website is stored within the web application, and that way, anytime anybody accesses that particular page, your script is going to run. So stored is kind of our goal, right? If we can find cross-site scripting where it's going to be stored, it's going to be really good for us as an attacker. And then DOM-based, a little bit more confusing, a little bit harder to find, but basically your code is not actually stored on the page, it's processed. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like when we get into the VM, but it's a little bit, it's really hard to find, okay? But just be advised that it's there, and when you find it, it could be pretty valuable. A couple of other types, there's mutated cross-site scripting, which is when normal benign input actually becomes malicious by what the browser and how the browser processes it, all right? It's pretty complicated. It's really cool if you can find it. We're not going to go into it today, all right? Because we don't have a whole lot of time. Maybe later on down the road, we'll do an advanced cross-site scripting, but for now, we're going to stay away from that one. And then, of course, there's cross-protocol cross-site scripting. So this one is super cool, pretty darn difficult to execute. Basically, what it is if you look on a DNS server, there's little TXT text files, right? Those text files can contain all kinds of different instructions for that particular domain. Sometimes things like DMARC are stored right there as a text file on the DNS registry. If you are able to manipulate those text files, you can actually put a cross-site scripting attack onto the DNS server. And then whenever somebody looks to actually manipulate or resolve that website on the server, your JavaScript or your cross-site scripting attack will execute. Pretty cool. I saw a demo of it. I did a real easy version of it. I've never actually carried it out, but it's there. It can happen. So, as you get better at your pen testing and diving into networks, be cognizant of that. Okay. What can we do with cross-site scripting? A big common problem with cross-site scripting is a lot of people find it, they show you their little proof of concept, and then they stop. And then you go to explain to the client, oh, hey, you've got cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. And the client goes, okay, yes, so what? And a lot of people stop right there. Oh, shit, I don't know, so what, right? What really got me into cross-site scripting was I was doing a web application pen test for a client, and I was reviewing their previous 2 years worth of pen tests that we had done for them, and cross-site scripting vulnerabilities existed on all of them. So of course I went back and I found them exactly where they were documented before. We go to tell the client about it. Hey, you haven't remediated this. And they were like, yeah, we know, but you really can't do anything with cross-site scripting. And so I was like, that's not true. So
hey, brother, we have a question.
Go ahead. Yes.
So Excrucio is asking, is there a language that's best for cross-site scripting? Is Python better than JavaScript, etc.? Or what language is best for different browsers and web apps?
JavaScript, brother. JavaScript is the way to go. I mean, that's the most payloads are out there, right? The most obfuscation techniques are out there. And really you're attacking the browser, right? So, that's going to be how you do it. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk a little bit about stealing cookies. Website defacement is kind of easy. Phishing, I'm going to show you a little bit of phishing. I'm not going to clone a website, but I'm going to show you how to steal some credentials. You can do key logging. You can get remote code execution. There are network attacks. And there's a whole lot that you can do with cross-site scripting. You have to remember that once you find it, you can get the browser to execute your custom code. And it's super important, that you kind of grasp that, because that opens up, you're limited by your creativity at that point. Where am I at here? What happened? Okay. Some of the more popular payloads. So you'll see this a lot if you start doing any like hacking 101 type stuff. Script alert script. Basically, you're just flat out running a script. There's no filtration. Those script tags are regular HTML, and it's just going to run it with no problems, right? Body onload is another one, right? The body HTML tag kind of tells the browser like this is where the meat and potatoes of the web page is going to be. So you're executing, your attack in that tag, right? And then of course, image source. This is another one where the way it's written is there's an image on the page that you're going to tell the browser to look at here. It's not going to find it because X doesn't exist. And then once the browser realizes there's an error, it's going to pop this alert right here. Okay. And then there's literally thousands of cross-site scripting payloads. Filtration bypass is a huge part of a successful cross-site scripting attack. And I'll show you how application developers can try to stop you and the ways around it. But these are kind of the most common proof of concepts and the most common payloads that you'll find. But there are, I'm telling you, there is almost an infinite number of other cross-site scripting payloads. So just do some Googling and you'll find a bunch. Some common defenses, okay? So there's web application firewalls, right, that are going to try to block specific input, keywords and characters, right? Like they're going to block out the word alert. They're going to block out the word script, okay? So you have to figure out a way to get past that. They'll actually sanitize your input. So you start putting in special characters, greater than, less than signs, reverse slashes or whatever. And the application, the browser is going to encode those so that they're not interpreted as those special characters. We'll see a little bit of that as we get going as well. And then of course, modern browsers, a lot of times are going to contain their own variation of filters that's going to prevent anything from popping up, from executing, et cetera, et cetera. Most of it's going to be visible, but that's okay. We're not done. We can find some stuff. Am I going too fast? If I'm going too fast, everybody kind of, just let me know. I want to dive into the actual demo portion of this. Some common bypasses, right? So if your characters are filtered, you can encode them. Okay. So this right here is showing you what it looks like when it's URL encoded. Sometimes you yourself can encode these and then it will be kind of flipped back around or unencoded by the time it hits the server. This is the same thing. This is that script alert script, hex encoded, right? Throw it in there. You can actually encode stuff in JavaScript. I read an interesting article about how you can encode stuff using normal JavaScript characters and not even use any letters or numbers. Pretty neat. It looks kind of funky, but it's an option. If modern browsers block your pop-ups and your alerts, right? So if you check the source code of the page and it looks like everything should be working, there's a chance that the browser itself is blocking your proof of concept. So try a blind attack, and I'll show you an example of one of those in a minute. Wow, that kind of went backwards, right? So instead of the script tag, try using something different like the image tags, SVG, body, or just writing the word JavaScript, right? You don't know what sort of filtration tactics are out there. So like I said, you're kind of limited by your imagination. Look at the other payloads that are out there because there's a whole bunch of them. Okay, so let's just get right into the live demo part. Again, remember this is a live demo, right? So be patient with me. Some things are not going to work right the first time. We'll figure it out or we'll move right past it. So what I gave you all, you should have had the damn vulnerable web application. That's the VM that I gave you in a link. Hopefully everybody got it up and running. When you first power it up, it's going to ask you for a login. That login is username DVWA, password DVWA. You're going to do an IF config to get that IP. It actually shows it to you right on the screen, but if you need to do an IF config, you'll get to it. And then you're going to just navigate to that IP in another browser, right? So you should, let me do this, hold on. So you're going to bring up your, so I'm in VMware, right? I have 2 VMs powered up right now. This is my DVWA. This is all you need. You see, here's when you first log in, it's going to show you the IP address right there. But then again, if you do an ifconfig, it's going to give you your IP as well, right? Right there in the inet.131. So that's all you need. And then I have another VM running, but you should be able to also access this on your host machine. If you're using your host machine, you should just be able to navigate right to it, and it'll bring you to this login screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody's there. If you're not there, if you can't get to this point, please get with Vodkanaut. He kind of helped me make the walkthrough for how to get this VM up and running. If Cochise is around, ask him as well. He can probably help you get up and running. But I'm just going to get going because we're going to get to all the cool stuff. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is when we're right here, there's nothing crazy that we want to do here. It's just admin password. I know, super secure. And then we're going to run down here, right, where it says DVWA security. And I want to start out with this being low. Okay, so low, make it low, hit submit. And now you're just going to show you the security level is low. So let's start out just with reflected cross-site scripting, okay? So I'm going to give you guys, we're going to start kind of basic, right? I know that some of you already pen testing ninjas are rolling your eyes already about how crazy this is. And that's fine, but this is kind of for the new folks. Hopefully you've seen this already, but let's touch on it a little bit more. So here we're going to start out with reflected cross-site scripting. So reflected cross-site scripting is going to be where I put in some input. And that input is reflected right back to me, okay? So this is exactly what I put in, scripts Ahoy. And when you're doing a pen test, these are some of the things that you want to pay attention to, right? So I'm looking at scripts Ahoy. It's here. I also noticed that it's up here in the browser, right, in the URL. And then I'm going to take a look at the source code and find it here as well, because this is going to be how I start to figure out my payload and build my attack, right? So look, I'm looking at it right here. Okay, so that's kind of neat, right? So now I know that what I put in is going to show up there. So let's get a little bit crazy, right? One of the first things that I do when I'm testing is I don't necessarily run directly to my proof of concept. I try to see, okay, can I get tags in here? You know, like what can I do? So I just start throwing some header stuff up there, right? And see what does it tell me. Like, ooh, look at that. That's pretty nifty, right? So it took my input, and then it also added a little bit more. It also took my tags. So if I go back down and look at it, so here's what I originally put in. Here's my header tags, and that's displaying right here out on the page. So that's pretty awesome, okay? So now I know, you know, that I can actually put stuff in, and I'm just going to go straight for the jugular. Ah. Let's see what happened. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right. And that's my cross-site scripting attack. So the first thing that happened, the reason why it didn't pop before is because I didn't have these little quotations, right? Sometimes you got to put quotations in there, sometimes you don't. So you got to play around with it a little bit. But if we look at the source code again, right? You'll notice that it just flat out ran my script. The script tags are showing that it's being accepted. There's nothing encoded, nothing missing. And that's why I'm able to execute that portion of code, okay? So that's reflected. Let's go look at stored. So stored cross-site scripting is a little bit better. It's where we actually put something here, right? Maybe like in a comment or, some sort of feedback or something along those lines. Sign in a user profile, right? Like if you have to ask to create a user profile, write a description. So you put some sort of input in here, and then you go away and you come back and your input stays there, okay? So this is why it's called a stored attack, right? Is because it's going to stay on the server and it's going to render and execute every time somebody comes back to this page. So that's what we're actually looking for. So one of the ways that I start to test for this is because I have 2 input points, right? So just for the interest of kind of speeding things up a little bit, I want to see like where it is, which one of these. That doesn't work. Never mind. Ignore that part. So there you go again, right? You can see that it's running my tags. I stopped on this one, guys, just to let you know, is because there's a character limit. So it won't let me write out the whole thing. There's a way to get around that, but we're not there just yet. Okay. So again, if I go and I check the source code, right, I'm going to see that the stuff I put in is actually stored here on the page. My header tags are rendered, right? It's executing my tags. So maybe there's an attack path there. There's an attack vector there. So let's look at it and see what we can get. By the way, I got my notes on this other screen here, so that's what I'm doing. All right. Now, so here's what happens, right? So let me demonstrate this to you, okay? So if we look at the source code, you're going to find that here's my script, here's my attack, my payload, okay? So what makes a stored cross-site scripting attack so dangerous is that it executed the first time, but now when I come back, it's going to execute again. All right, and it's going to stay there, and it's going to keep executing no matter what. Okay, so that's why this is kind of like the attack that we want if we're really up to no good. You have to be really careful when you do this stuff in a pen test because, you got to remember that your code is now executing all the time and it's stored there. So you have to know where it's stored and you have to be able to come back to it and say, look, you have to delete that entry. Otherwise this, this attack is going to be constantly running. So that's why some pen testers actually stop here, is because they don't want to put anything harmful on the server all the time. Okay, but whatever, man. Go big or go home, right? So I'm going to clear the guest book so we don't keep seeing that. That's going to reset the database. Okay, and then let's get into the DOM based. Right. So DOM is a document object model, and I'm not going to go too crazy into what that means. But basically what it is when something on the page is changing, or, instead of sending information back to the server, the browser is going to do some sort of, calculations or whatever, and just, render everything here on the page. Okay. The hard thing about DOM and why it's hard, why DOM-based attacks and why they're hard to find, is because, like I said, sometimes a request never even goes to the server. So you have to actually dig through the source code to find out what's going on. So for this particular page, right, this is what we're looking at right here, right? So it's taking our input, it's running through some code here, if this, then that, blah, 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 and it's spitting it out here on the page, right? So we go to Spanish or whatever, and we select it, okay? Now, a couple of things that call out to us that let us know that we can attack this is the fact that whatever's here actually shows up here as well. So that's always kind of a good sign. So we can run that in there, hit our button, just hit enter, and now we have our attack, okay? And then what happens is if you actually come down here and you look for it, you're not gonna find it stored on the page anywhere because it was already rendered through here. So it was processed here, spit back out on the page, and that's really it. So again, it's not like stored. If we go back and come back to it, it's not here anymore because it doesn't get stored, right? And the page runs, like it normally would, okay? So that's kind of the basic cross-site scripting attacks, I know, like I said, there's kind of a delay. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to wait like 10 seconds and then I'm just going to move on. All right, I'm just going then. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of filtration bypassing, right? So let's bump this up a little to medium. So pretty much from here on out, I think I'm going to stick with reflected. Let me just check my notes really quick and see if there's any reason to move on. Yeah, okay, wait. Yeah, all right. So just because it's a little bit easier, the concept is kind of still the same all the way around. But let's get into a reflected attack. Okay, so if you remember before, all we had to do was put our payload in here, and the browser rendered it, and we didn't have any problems, right? Away it went, and we were good to go. Well, okay, wait a second now. So now I have a little bit of an issue here. So I'm seeing my payload, but it didn't pop, right? The JavaScript that I put in there, this alert didn't execute. So now you have to start to figure out how that happened and why. So let's go have a look at the source code. Okay, so I'm missing a script tag here, right? That's what the problem is, okay? I have one here. It's highlighted in red because it means it's incomplete, right? That's Firefox telling me this is where the problem is. But wait a second, I put it there. So, so obviously something is going on. So this is when, okay, now we start to come to burp. Because the way an application works, now I'm going to give you a gross overgeneralization of applications, and I can hear Dr. Sunny now grabbing her desk really tight because I'm about to screw this up, but it's okay. She can't hurt me here. So the way this is going to work is you put some sort of input in there. The browser normally does something, maybe not. Then it sends it over to the web application servers or whatever the tiers are in there. It does something else, and then it sends it back to me. The browser could possibly do something else, and now I start to see it, okay? So using burp, I at least have the option to see what's going there and what's coming back, okay? And that's important. Maybe I don't have visibility into the actual, mathematics or database or any of that stuff. Maybe I don't have access to that, but I can see what's being sent and what's being sent back. And that's kind of important, right? So let me just check to make sure my proxy options are set the right way. I want to intercept responses. I know there were some questions earlier about setting up burp and all that, and that's cool. But this is not the class for it. If you're really 100% stuck, then just kind of follow along and let's get together afterwards. And I'll show you how to configure burp the right way. But it's a little bit of a pain to show you what's going on. I really just want to use it for demonstration purposes. Okay, so what I'm going to do though is for this particular one, let's intercept the request and see what happens. So I'm going to start with my little test again. I'm going to throw my payload in there, make sure it's sitting right, intercept this request. I put my Foxy proxy is rocking and rolling. Damn it. Sprite cached. So anyways, let me come back. Like I said, live demo, folks. Bear with me. All right. So look what happened here. Okay, so remember when I told you that a lot of times the browser or some functionality is going to try to encode your text or remove some of that malicious content. So that's what this guy is trying to do here. So burp is pretty neat, right? If you don't use it, you have the ability, you can highlight all of this, okay? And then there's a convert selection, and then check it out, I'm gonna URL decode it. So now look, so here's my script again, right? Everything's exactly as I entered it. Yay, I'm pretty happy about that. So let's let it go through. Son of a biscuit is still not working, all right? So again, let me have a look. So it's still taking out that script tag. So there's probably a WAF in front of this or something that's filtering out that particular word. It doesn't like the word script. So there's a neat way around this. So I'm just going to put it here, right? I'm going to intercept the attack so that everybody can see it. Okay, and then here's what I'm going to do with my payload. And this is a good demonstration of kind of the creativity that you can start to get into. So I hope you can see it, but if you look right here, I actually broke up the first script and threw another script on the inside. Okay, because what I'm hoping that the application is looking for the word script, removing it, but not checking recursively. I'm hoping that it looks for it one time and then just lets it run. And it turns out that's probably what's happening. And now I have some success, right? So let's check the source code and see what that looks like. And here we are. Okay, so there's my script again. So I'll show you one time. Let me bring you back to the request I just made. Right? I hope everybody can see that, but all I did was I took the first script and I threw another script right in the middle of it. Okay? And then, like I said, what happened is that that first one was removed, but not the second one. It missed that second one. Okay? So that same attack is going to work in the stored area, right? It's going to just run the same type of thing. The DOM one is a little bit different. Okay? So the DOM-based attack actually hates this payload and this one altogether. So even if I run it this way, nothing's going to happen. Okay? And I don't remember, let me just check. I don't think that this, yeah. Oh, no, it does. It looks like it does. Yeah, okay. So we'll ignore that part. But it's a lot harder to check for because there's really nothing going on the page, right? I can't look at it. So this is what makes DOM attacks a lot more difficult is you don't get that feedback. And I know that I just showed you right here, right? This is my attack. This is my payload. But there's a lot of instances where you're just not even going to get any of this because everything is going to happen right here. Okay. So this is when you start to mess with different payloads and let's see what you can get. So for this particular one, some of the things that I'm paying attention to, right, is the document.write. Okay. So this is running, it's asking for the language, right? And then it's going to decode it, throw it here, and it's going to display it. Okay, so is there a way that I can put my code in the middle of this process somehow? So let me show you the payload, and then I'll explain to you what it's doing. And we'll go on from there, okay? So obviously I have my language that I selected. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this and throw, darn it, that's the wrong one. Give me a minute, hold on. Told you, live demo, everybody. Bear with me, please. All right. So what I'm doing is, if you remember, there's this part of the source code here, right? There's this option in the value. So I'm closing that out. I'm going to close out starting right here. I'm closing this part out. Okay. And I'm opening up a new one. It's going to be right over here. Okay. And hopefully that's going to give me my attack. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? I know it's kind of a lot, right? And it's a little bit confusing, but the idea being is that sometimes you have to stop this process prematurely and then give it a different answer, right? Something that it's not looking for. Okay. So when you go back, when I told you earlier about some of those most common payloads, a lot of those common payloads are going to start with something looks like this, right? Or like this, because you have to close out whatever the script is that you're trying to inject your code into. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to kind of prematurely stop this process and then throw the next step in there before it even knows what's going on. All right? Does that make sense? Hopefully. I see some folks are lost, but hey, that's okay, right? No big deal. And then what I want to do, let's get into high really quick and see how crazy the defenses get here. So back to reflected because it's the easiest one. So let's use our normal attack. See what happens. Oh, smoke. Like this is a little bit crazy, right? There's a tag here, but nothing else, nothing really popped. So let's have a look and see what's going on. By the way, like Dr. Sunny or Aces, if you guys are listening to this and I'm way off the mark, feel free to send me a message, right? Because I don't want to give any bad info. So let's have a look. Where was I? Hello, test, right? So my script isn't even here. The alert isn't here. Like nothing even made it here, right? Because this is my rendering. And all it gave me was that last tag, but it didn't do anything to it. So let's have a look, right? Let's do sort of the testing. Let's try it again. It's all URL encoded. It came from the browser that way. So I always like to try. So, you know, I kind of developed this little thing here, right? When I was a cop, we used to have this, you know, this sort of methodology, right? That's like, if you want to get control of a situation, you start making people do what they're not already doing, right? So for example, you know, the whole get your hands out of your pockets thing, there's a small part of it that's like safety, but there's another part of it that's like, okay, the person wanted to put their hands in their pockets. So I'm going to make you take your hands out, right? If I tell you to put your hands up and you put them up, I'm going to tell you, no, put them on your head, right? That's a way of me taking control. So I do the same thing when it comes to testing, right? If the browser wants to URL encode this, all right, well, I'm going to URL decode it and just see what happens. Let's see. It won't let it happen. So if it doesn't want to do it, that's fine. I'm going to do it here manually. No, I won't. No, I can't. I have to run the test. Stand by. Stand by. Told you, live demo, everybody. All right. So there you go. So I made it regular again, right? I took away the encoding. It's in plain text. We're good to go. Let's see what happens. Now nothing. Now the whole thing is gone. Well, that's problematic. So clearly something is filtering something out. It doesn't like it. So it's leaving this tag, which kind of leads me to believe that there's a process at the end of this that I have to fix. Maybe, you know, I can execute, or I can, maybe there's either I can close it prematurely or I can add another process into this somehow. So I'm going to go back to that payload that we used before, the body onload, and see if I can run that in there, because clearly it just doesn't like the input I'm giving. The word script is being taken away. The alert is being taken away. So let's see if I can get something else running in there. Oh, and look at that. There we are. It pops in, it works. Let's go back and look at the source code and we can figure out why. All right. So there it is again, right? So this is obviously there's nothing closing it, but still it recognizes that I'm trying to start a whole new block of page. So it's going to take it and just read it and it execute it. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? The point behind this now, if you get into the DVWA and you start looking around, there's more than one way to skin this cat, right? Like you can do a lot of these attacks, a lot of these you know, obfuscation payloads will work. Okay. The point of this part of the lecture was just to show you that just because your standard script doesn't work, all is not lost. Okay. You have to try new things. You have to be creative. Kind of understand what you're looking at and figure out ways around it. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? If anybody has any questions about, you know, kind of that filter bypass, please let me know, because we're going to move right into some of the other cool stuff. All right, good. So I'm going to go ahead and crank this down to low and impossible. I'll be honest with you, impossible. If you figure out how to get it to pop and execute, please let me know, because I haven't. So that's probably why it's impossible, right? If I can't do it, well, then sure, it can't be done, right? So let's turn it back to low. And let's talk about some kind of neat attacks that we can do here, right? So we executed our script. We got our little pop-up there. Well, so what? All right, so what does that mean? Like, now what can I do with it? Okay, so one of the most other, common attack vectors that you'll find, sorry about that, is the cookie, right? You can steal some cookies and we can start going after session info. Okay, so this right here is the session info, right? And a lot of people, again, they can get here, right? Look, I can get your cookie. You don't have your, your HTTP only. You don't have your cookie flag set right. So bang, you're in trouble. But then again, like, what can I do with this? So if I take this URL and I pass it on to some, somebody and whatever, they click on it, this thing pops up in their browser. Okay, well, who cares? What can you do with it? How are you going to get this information to a remote attacker, right? That's the key. Okay, well, that's good. I'm happy that you asked. Let me show you how. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is we're just going to go after session info. So I am going to use our good friend, the Netcat listener, right? So I'm going to open it up a listener on port 80. Son of a biscuit. And now here I am, I'm listening, okay? So let me show you the payload that I'm going to give you. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to intercept this request in burp, and we're going to talk about it for a second. Because I want to show you what I'm doing. So there's a couple of things that you have to look at really quick in this request. So first of all, like, burp is a pretty versatile tool, right? So this is the fact that my payload is kind of two different colors is telling me that, like, something isn't right. Okay. So I have to figure out a way to get this all to work. So remember when I told you that, sometimes the filters will URL encode things to render it, sort of so it doesn't work, right? To negate your tags and whatnot. Well, it holds true the other way. If you URL encode something, then there's a chance that it gets read the right way. So basically what was happening is that the code didn't like the spaces that were in here, okay? So by URL encoding the key characters, it took out that little funkiness. And so it made it all like it's kind of one continuous thing, so it likes it better. So this particular script this payload that I put up here actually creates a new image object, points that image object to my local machine, my attacker machine. And then there's another PHP file that I'll show you in a minute, and it asks for the cookie, okay? So all of this information is going to be gathered by this PHP thing and then sent to my attacking machine, okay? So nothing pops up here. You don't see anything here. But look what happened on my listener. Okay? So this is where things can start to get a little bit crazy and a little bit valuable for you. So now, if we go and look at the source code here, here's my payload running on the page, right? But what does the victim see? Nothing. Okay? This is kind of telling me that, like, something is running, the script is running, and it is. It's right here on the listener. Okay, but now look, now the get.php has fetched the cookie info, and now it's all sent right here remotely. All right, does that make sense to everybody? So this is how you can start to, like, show a client, look, you have some problems here, and this is why. Okay, this is not just a local attack. I don't have to be sitting at the machine looking over somebody's shoulder to do this. There's a way to exploit this cross-site scripting attack remotely and take advantage of it. Okay, so let's look at another one here that I found online that I think is actually super, super cool. So I'm going to start another listener, right? Okay, and then I'm going to intercept. So we're going to talk about how to intercept some credentials here. So let me intercept this request again. Dang it. By the way, this is not getting sent through because it's being cached in the browser, so it's just going to render it. So I have to change it. There we go. So here's the request. I'm attaching a pretty gnarly payload, right? So here's what this payload is doing. And I should have showed you this on the screen, but anyways. So it's going to, H3 is going to render the words. This words is going to say, please log in to proceed. It's going to make an AJAX call out to another page. It's going to create a form document here that's going to take the information that the user is putting in and send it back over to my listener again. Okay. Let me fix all this. Hold on. I'm trying to do 1,000 things at once. So if anything I say is not clear, please ask. All right, so let me encode the characters again, send it through. All right, so I can hear somebody now, right? Oh, that looks ridiculous. But I can tell you with 100% degree of certainty that if I played with this a little bit, if I sent this to somebody, someone is going to give me all the information that I need, right? Anybody that's conducted a phishing campaign, I can tell you with 100% confidence that people will put their credentials into damn near anything you ask them to, all right? So here's my little form, right? Somebody puts the info in, they click the login button, and look what happens on my listener, right? Username, password, right? Now, how happy does that make you, right? So again, you know, I know that this is kind of funky looking, and it is a little bit, but imagine if you were to play around with this and get it to look a little bit better on a particular page that you had. I challenge you to find a location where it's like this wouldn't work on at least one person, okay? Phishing is actually really easy. So I see, does anybody have any questions about anything I've gone over so far? I'm going to wait just a few seconds before I move on. All right, that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to close out my listener. Oops, what did I do? No, let's go back. Okay, so that's pretty neat, right, to use a Netcat listener, but what if you're trying to get more information, right? Like what if you want kind of a sustained attack or to build up a little bit of a repository, right, of information? So let me show you what I have here. How did I access that? Yeah, I see it. Okay, so it's actually written here, right? So, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. All right, so there was a question from the group about how do I access the payload / template. In this particular case, it's all right here. Let me find it in the browser. Wait, just let me find it. I think it went away. Yeah, but anyways, that entire payload was put right here through the URL, okay? Right, so you see how it's sitting up here? So that entire payload went right up here in the URL. Okay, see the login value right here, the submit button, all of it came up here. Now, how did I access it? How did I get it delivered to me? All that I did was open up a Netcat listener on port 80. Okay, and then part of this payload is that it actually directs the information to be sent to my attacker machine, right? My DVWA is sitting on .131. My particular host right here is .129, okay? So that's how it's rendered. It gets rendered because the HTML is reading what the input is that I put into the URL, all right? And then by executing this form, it sends it back, okay? I hope that makes sense, right? Okay, all right, good. Now, so let's push on that a little bit further, right? So like I said, this is like a one-time shot right here. It's going to tie up your Netcat listener, but let's say that we found a stored attack somewhere, okay? We're not going after just one person. We want to go after a bunch of people, right? So let's start really quick with just a simple cookie grab. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a payload that I use all the time that is going to grab a cookie. So what it does is it grabs the IP address, the user agent from a particular requester that accesses this file. And then I'll show you the whole payload. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Then it's going to run this JavaScript right here. No, it's not. Hold on. Never mind. Ignore that last part. Back to the get part. All right. It's going to take the username, right, and the IP address and throw it over to a jar.txt file that I have. Okay. Does that make sense? So let me show you what that looks like really quick. We'll get into that evil.js in a minute. That's something totally different. So I'm going to start my Apache server. Then I'm going to give it a shot really quick. 129 get.php data equals test. All right, so this is a little something that I have in there just to echo the user. But then, like I said, this particular PHP opens up a cookie jar.txt and it writes to that file. Okay, so that's what happened here, right? Was that this particular, I navigated to that page and it sent the data over here. All right. So who cares, right? So what? Big deal, big deal. Well, let's say that we were going after somebody and we wanted to get that information from them. So I'm going to take that same payload that I had for the Netcat listener. I'm going to put it in here. And again, you don't see anything here, but let me reload my page. Son of a, told you it's a live demo, everybody. Bear with me. Yeah, that's it. That should work. What the? Hold on. All right, looks good. Let's see if it's working. Yes, there we go. All right, huzzah. Okay, So here's what I have now, right? So I have that payload sitting here in this page. Okay, so again, creates a new image object, right? That image object source is that get PHP that I showed you. And I put in data.text, but in this particular case, I'm asking for their cookie. Okay, so now here's what's cool about this. So now this is sitting here on this page and it's stored, it's not going anywhere. So you can see right now I've only got one, but now let's say that I start getting a bunch of different users to this page. Well, now it starts to build up, okay? Because like I said, once it's stored, every time somebody comes to this page, I'm gathering up their info, okay? So now this is where things start to get a little bit dangerous for a victim, okay? And these are the types of things that you have to actually show, your clients when you're pen testing, is I can steal your stuff remotely if you set everything up the right way. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about this part right here? I know I got a little bit crossed up, but hopefully that you kind of got a grasp of what I'm trying to do. All right, good. Okay, so let's take this just one step further. So I have a way to start stealing up cookies, and that's fantastic, right? Everybody likes to steal cookies. But now I'm going to show you how you can actually execute a keylogger. Okay, and I'm going to start logging keystrokes to anybody that comes to visit that page. All right, so again, I already have this file set up. Okay, here's my PHP, right? That opens up a file called data.text and starts adding keystrokes to it. Okay, here's my little JavaScript, right? So because this is a little bit longer, so what I'm actually going to wind up doing is instead of trying to execute this payload right here on the page, I'm actually going to take, I'm going to execute a script that's going to point to this file, then it's going to execute it, then it's going to execute the PHP. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Let me see really quick. Let me find it. So again, let me intercept this request. So I already have it URL encoded because obviously I did this earlier, but hopefully you guys get the idea, right? So now you see that there's something funky going on here, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens. But if I come down and have a look, where's my keylogger? Keys. Okay, so here we are, right? Here's my script, right? It's pointing to that JavaScript file. And now if I start typing stuff, Coaches, what's your password? Let me into your bank account, blah, 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 right? In theory, all of this stuff is being written to that data.text file. And there you have it. Scripts Ahoy. So does that make sense to everybody? All of this was done just by finding a simple Java or cross-site scripting vulnerability. Okay? So the moral of the story is that yes, Java or cross-site scripting can be pretty darn dangerous. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about anything we've done so far? I know that I was kind of getting a little bit crossed up on myself. So if there's anything that's not clear, please let me know.
Yeah, I just got the weirdest message from a guy named Peesha Deel.
Yeah, yeah. There was going to be a joke in there about your mom, but I figured this is a professional forum and I don't want to do that right now. So, yeah. So RJ45 says, how useful are the browser tools for what you're showing us? If you're talking about like the developer tools, is that what you're talking about? So the way that I use the developer tools when it comes to cross-site scripting is using the console. I'll try to throw out some of the DOMs, right? I'll try to get some of that stuff to execute just to have a look. But really, I personally don't use that a whole lot. I use the browser and then I use burp intercept. And that's kind of where I do the majority of my testing. I don't know if that answers your question, RJ. If you need to follow up, please feel free. We're still on a 4-second loop, Chris, or? Yeah, dev tools. Yeah, like I said, I don't really use them that much, to be honest with you, other than to test out some DOM stuff here and there. So
typically dev tools.
What's that?
Typically, yeah, and like both when you and me were both learning under Dr. Sunny, typically dev tools are a lot for more of those old school kind of cats. Yeah. You know, who've been pen testing web apps before Burp Suite even existed.
All right. So let's look at one more thing here, and then we're going to call it a night because my kids are quiet and that scares me. But so it would be remiss if we didn't at least look at another tool, okay? And that's everybody's favorite, your friend and mine, Beef, right? So there is a browser exploitation framework called Beef that's really good. It does a lot of kind of crazy, scary stuff that if you can get it to execute, that's fantastic, okay? So let's have a look at that. So you run it. I believe it's native in Kali. It has its own web UI. Let's see if that just comes up. Yep, there it is. Let me move it over. All right, and then, so, I mean, this isn't really like a big giant class on Beef, so we're not going to get too into the weeds about what Beef can do, but I just want to show you, again, you know, the things that you can do with a cross-site scripting attack. So Beef has, you know, kind of it's got a hook, right, is what it's called, which is your payload, your cross-site scripting payload, that much like like the ones I just showed you, where it actually points to, you know, my machine and the files that I have, the Beef hook is going to point to Beef itself, the Beef framework itself. So let's try something really quick here and see if we can get this running. You do have to make some changes to it, son of a. Dang it. Let me throw my hook in there. So you have to replace this part with your IP. And then again, I'm going to URL encode everything because it doesn't look right. I'm sure there's a better way to explain that, but I just don't know it right now. So maybe when Dr. Sunny puts on another Burp Suite workshop, if you missed her first one, then I can't help you. If she puts on another one and you missed it again, then you're a lost cause. That's what I'm saying. All right. So let's just have a look kind of what's going on. So I just executed another cross-site scripting attack that, like I said, is going to point to the Beef framework. So I'm going to let that run, and then I'm going to watch Beef. So here's what Beef has just told me. So if you look over here, you have your list of offline browsers, and you have your list of online browsers. Okay. So Beef is telling me that, hey, man, somebody just executed your hook and we've got them. Okay. They're ours now. So Beef gives us all kinds of information. Here's the session information that I was fighting for earlier, right? The Beef hook ID number. Okay, whatever, that's fine. It can tell you the IP addresses, what the server info is, right? That's the application server, my DVWA server, all kinds of just good info, okay? So, but, that's all fun, right? Reconnaissance and gathering info. Yeah, that's great. But what we really want to do is mess with people, right? So all of these little options, that Beef has are things that Beef could actually do to another browser. Like I said, this isn't a course on Beef, so let's not get too crazy, but just check this out really quick. So create a prompt dialog. So, hey, buddy, enter your password again. If I could spell anything, that would be great. Enter your password again. Execute. Now give it a second. But look what Beef just did. Beef just carried out another pop-up. So hey man, my password is Cochise, right? Because that's the coolest password. Cochise1. Nope. There we go. And then that information is going to wind up getting passed back to Beef. And Beef now snatched it up. Okay? So that's one of the things that Beef can do. Okay? There's a ton of other stuff. Some social engineering, right? Clippy. Let's execute Clippy really quick. Look at this little fella. Remember this guy? Who remembers this guy? Right? So, like I said, this isn't a course on Beef and what's going on. This is actually prompting this user to download a file. Okay, you just have to put the file somewhere, right? And then you can actually change the message and the whole 9 yards. And then when somebody clicks yes, right, then it's going to execute it. Okay, again, like I said, this is using Clippy, but there's flash notifications, there's other notifications, there's clickjacking, which if you don't know what clickjacking is, it's basically Beef will create a fake website to put on top of this one. And when people start clicking around, it's going to catch it. You can link it into Metasploit, right? There's just all kinds of stuff that Beef is going to allow you to do. The problem with Beef is that everybody kind of knows it. So any application that has a firewall or something like that is probably going to block that signature and it's not going to let it run. So I wanted to show you all, as we built up to Beef, all of the kind of manual exploits that you can use. Netcat, custom PHP, custom JavaScript files. And then of course, the easy one is Beef. A good pen tester has something in their tool bag for when the tools fail, right? Because Metasploit sometimes fails. Burp sometimes fails. If Burp doesn't do what I need it to do, I can go into curl, right? So you kind of have those commands. If SQL map isn't working, I have SQL, I know some SQL injection payloads that I can start to use. So that's kind of the good stuff that, that you all need to recognize and to figure out how to do. So let me show you one more thing here, just to kind of play some games.
There's a question, Peesha.
Oh, there is. Go.
So let's say my daughter was listening to Korean hip hop or Korean pop music. What would we do about that with Beef?
So is this a serious question or is this a coaching question?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I would do, and I'm actually looking for it. I don't know where it is really quick, but you can social engineering. So you can actually, earlier when I talked about how you can clone a website, right? And Beef will actually clone a website and carry all of that stuff out and render it and all of that through a cross-site scripting attack. So one of the things you can do with cross-site scripting is deface a website. So if I'm able to put a code in here that tells, the website to look for, this, or an image at this site, it's just going to do that. I'm trying to find it right now really quick, but Google phishing, let me see that. Yeah. Let's see. There you go, right? So here's what, so Google phishing, and all you do is click execute. The voice in my head is messing with me. Does he know that we can hear him, John? So anyways, so what I would do is I would replace this Google phishing page, right? Hook URI or to a different page. I'd clone it like some sort of BTS Korean K-pop thing. And then I would have her put her password in, right? So let's just say Peeshlet's password, Peeshlet's username, and her BTS password. BTS stands for band that sucks, right? And then I would get all of it, and then I would tell her, and I would delete her account, right? That's how you get down, right?
That's parenting 101 right there, folks.
What's that?
I'm saying that's parenting 101 right there. I tell Laura all the time that our kids are going to live in a benevolent police state with their dad as a cybersecurity engineer.
But again, so, talking about, and I'm about to close out the demo part. So while this script is running, you're in great shape, okay? The problem is that you navigate off of that script stops running, and you lose control of that browser, right? So you'll see it goes into offline browsers, and then it's going to disappear from here in a minute because you just don't have it anymore, okay? See, and away it goes. So there are some limitations to cross-site scripting. The good news is if you get it stored, they come back, and then whoop, you hook it right back up again. All right. So let me just finish up really quick, folks. Before I go back to the slides, does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff that we went over? I tried to put enough content in here for new folks and for folks that have been around for a little bit, just to hopefully pique your curiosity and try some new things. I see Wolf Puncher is typing, and that just immediately scares me. So I'm just going to wait for him to ask his question or make his comment, and then I'll get back into the slides. Oh shit, RJ45 is too. Well, I guess I better wait then. Try some meme about BTS and little Peeshlets. Aside from the browser, what gives you access to the server? Is that what you're asking? Aside from the browser, what gives you access to the server? Well, so I'm not quite 100% sure what it is you're asking, but when you're dealing with an application, the application is your access to the server, right? So you just have to figure out a way to get in there and do your own bidding.
I think he means like getting root or getting shell.
Getting shell. So, well, there's a billion different ways to get shell, but cross-site scripting is not one of them. I don't know of any way that's going to give you a reverse shell with cross-site scripting. The best that I know how to do is to read some and pilfer some information via the netcat listener, right? So getting some header information, et cetera, as in you can manipulate the database. Yes, so you can chain cross-site scripting into SQL injection attacks. Once you, so a cross-site scripting attack is kind of like a SQL injection attack. Like once I find that SQL injection is here and that it's vulnerable to SQL injection, then there's a lot of manipulating the database that I can do. The majority of us just we want to see the database information so we can turn around and tell everybody, hey, look, I've got your database. But a truly malicious attacker using SQL injection can actually add a user or start, changing information in that database. And it's sort of the same thing with cross-site scripting, right? using a cross-site scripting attack, I could then go into some sort of a network attack. But like I said, that's kind of a long and drawn out class. That's for another course. If you guys are interested in it, please let me know, right? If I didn't blow you away with my fantastic skills this evening, then let me know, and we'll start here at the next talk and dive right into, running beef through burp into SQL Mapper, or running Metasploit through burp and carrying it out that way. Metasploit has its own keylogger that actually works really, really well. And in fact, so does beef, that work really, really well too. So you can definitely start chaining these things together. Okay. But like I said, that's for another time. What else? Does anybody have anything else? I hope Wolf Puncher, I didn't mean to, I hope you don't think I blew you off, but yes, it can happen. It's just, it's a complicated process. So hold on, let me finish this up.
So, what's your next, where did, your first talk was Wi-Fi hacking.
Yeah.
Second talk was essentially how Officer Peesha violated the Constitution.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis. So here's talk 3. What can we expect for fifth talk? Okay, so yeah, wait, Peesha, what were your 5 talks? We had the Wi-Fi hacking.
Yep. Master Puppets was violating rights.
Yeah, violating rights.
Yep. The email.
Well, I guess my question is, what's up next there, Peesha?
I don't know. That's up to you guys. What do you want? First of all, if are the talks that I'm giving, are they valuable, right? Are you all learning stuff? Is it useful, right? If it is, then I'll keep going, right? And then you guys tell me what are your questions? I've been thinking about giving a talk on breaking into cybersecurity, right? Because let's face it, I was 38 when I decided I wanted to do cybersecurity, 41 when I graduated college for the third time, whatever it was, and that was when I got my first job. So I've had a ton of people ask me, "Hey, how did you do it? How did you do it?" There is a way to do it. It's just pretty difficult. So I was thinking about giving a talk on walking that path, right? How to just break through a wall and get into cybersecurity. Because the traditional route of into cybersecurity is, you have to do something first. Dr. Sunny was a developer for 20 years, rolled it into security. There are a lot of people that start off as rock solid banging network engineers, system administrators, roll into security. I went the other direction. I was like, hey man, that's where the cool kids are hanging out. Let me in.
I think you and Crispy would do a good job doing that together. I know he's working on something like that because he's been doing this for just about as long as you have. And I mean, before that, he was doing stuff completely unrelated to the industry. So I think that whenever Crispy's done signing autographs to himself, you might be able to hit him up about that.
Yeah. No, that would be great. And I would have absolutely no problem at all. Kind of just explaining the path that I walked down, what was in my head and where I felt like I was, you have your moments of despair, right? So I can tell you when I had those moments and what I did to get past them. That's one. And then insofar as anything technical, like I said, if you want an advanced cross-site scripting, that's fine. We'll go nuts. If you want to do bug bounties, let's do bug bounties. Because I'm active on a handful of platforms. Like I said, I've made some money, but ultimately for me, it's more about the practice than it is about making a living. I've been fortunate that I've had a couple jobs, but I'll definitely, talk to folks about how to get into doing that, finding the right ones, and then how to not waste your time, doing it. If that makes sense. So let's close this out really quick and then we'll be good to go. I got to go find my kids. So in summary, cross-site scripting is incredibly flexible. hopefully the last handful of examples kind of showed you that, okay? I know that they were a little bit spotty, maybe a little bit hard to follow, but you can do a lot with this. When I was prepping for this talk, I did talk to Dr. Sunny. She has her own keylogger that she uses. She has a keylogger that she chains in with like a clickjacking attack, and it's pretty gnarly. All of it starts with finding a cross-site scripting bug. Okay, so you can do a lot of good stuff. It's great for red teaming and social engineering campaigns. So you definitely have to have user interaction to be able to carry out a cross-site scripting attack. It does nobody any good for you to put a cross-site scripting payload on like a MySpace page, right? Because no one's ever going to see it. No one's ever going to touch it. You're not going to get anything. Okay. So it's good for social engineering because you have to get somebody to do something. The drawbacks and limitations, like I just explained, you have to have some victim user interaction. And this is kind of an important one that we sort of blew right by. So the victim user has to have a valid session. So for example, let's just use Facebook. Let's say that I'm able to find a cross-site scripting vulnerability in just the regular post, functionality of Facebook. Okay. And so let's just say that I want to attack John. If I, create a page out of my cross-site scripting vulnerability, send it to Cochise, if he's not authenticated to Facebook, when he clicks on my link, my page is going to come up. It's immediately going to prompt him to log in, and then it's going to redirect him to who knows where and probably kill my payload. If my payload exists in the URL, well, then you can pretty much kiss that goodbye. So that's a pretty major drawback to cross-site scripting, is that you have to have that valid authenticated session. Once the victim goes away, the script stops executing. Okay. If it's a reflected attack, the victim goes to that page. You got pretty much one shot to get your payload executed, and whatever that payload is pulling is all you're going to get. So if it's stored, you have a little bit more time, but again, the user navigates to it. Your script runs. The minute they navigate away, it's gone. Okay. And then that's it. So credits and references. I'm all about giving credit where credit is due. Dr. Sunny Weir is my mentor. She is an incredible human being, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Very honest with her feedback. If you're blowing smoke, she'll flat out tell you. And for you folks that have come in, if you haven't met her yet, she's Boba Fett Bounty Hunter on Slack. I would encourage you to at least introduce yourself to her. She is a tremendous human being, an encyclopedia of application knowledge. eLearn Security, the web application penetration tester. So that's a certification I got where I took the entire course, right? I did all of the lectures, watched all the videos, used all the lab time, and they spend a lot of time on cross-site scripting. In fact, I'm not going to tell you how, but their final test for the EWPT certification, you must execute a remote cross-site scripting attack. Otherwise, you can't pass the test. And that's all I'm telling you. I'm not telling you any more about that. But if you like web application testing, in addition to the introductory stuff, the EWAP is a fantastic course. These are some links that I have. They'll execute. You'll have access to them when I send out the slide deck. I'm going to send out the slide deck so you can, go to them. The top one is just where I got the idea for trying to use Netcat. The DVWA one, the middle sec art, has all these answers that I showed you guys today. A little bit of an explanation. And then the pen test tools one is super cool because it has 5 practical scenarios for cross-site scripting attacks. That's where I pulled that login page from. They also have another one where you can execute a cross-site scripting attack into a CSRF attack, cross-site request forgery attack that will automatically register a new user for you, right? Pretty awesome. So have a look at that when you get a chance. And with that, I'm done. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'll wait just a few seconds, and then I'm going to turn it back over to John and Chris, and I'm going to sign off and grab another gourd.
Peace, you want to take us out, brother?
Yeah, that's it, man. Thank you all so very much. I hope you had a great night. I'm glad everybody was safe throughout the hurricane. I know it was a little anticlimactic, but please, I'm glad that everybody was at least serious. Thank you again to the founding masters in residence, Dr. Sonny Weir, Jeremy Rasmussen, Jonathan Singer, Ryan Linfield. You guys are a tremendous group of folks. Congratulations to all the incoming master in residence. And I'm looking forward to a great year with all of you and building out the Undercroft membership. So have a good night all, be safe, and I'll see you next week.
Peesha, Deel, and Coach East out.